They say the universe isn't built of matter, but of attention. Long before science discovered frequency and field, one being left the code for mastering both. His name was Thoth, the architect of hidden knowledge, the scribe who taught that words could move worlds. He claimed every human carries a forgotten technology inside the body, a living circuit that can bend probability itself. When the heart and mind vibrate in perfect coherence, reality listens. Modern physics calls it resonance. The ancients called it divine speech. The temples along the Nile were not monuments. They were tuning forks designed to awaken this power. Tonight, that same frequency is calling you. If you've ever felt time slow, coincidence stack, or intuition whisper the truth before it happens, you've already touched it. But Thoth warned, use it unconsciously and you fracture your own timeline. Master it and you become a creator. The question isn't whether the secret is real, it's whether you're ready to remember it. Long before the first hieroglyph was carved, before language had form, an intelligence moved through the fabric of creation, shaping light into pattern and pattern into life. The ancients called that intelligence Thoth, the architect of consciousness, the keeper of the universal code. What most people never realize is that Thoth did not merely teach knowledge, he installed it. His temples were not monuments to gods, but living servers of energy designed to interface with the human nervous system. Every column, every angle, every glyph was part of an electromagnetic algorithm that could download awareness directly into the initiate's cells. Modern archaeology records these structures as stone and pigment, but the initiates understood them as resonant fields. When sunlight struck the limestone at dawn, frequencies invisible to the eye activated within the chambers, aligning the body's internal currents with cosmic harmonics. This was the original internet, an energetic web connecting consciousness across dimensions long before fiber optics mirrored its geometry. At the core of Thoth's teaching lay a single premise: the human being is a self-contained generator of universal energy. Every heartbeat, every breath, every electrical impulse in the brain is a microcosmic reflection of the cosmos. The temples simply reminded initiates how to tune their inner instruments back to the divine frequency. The priests called this process Heka, often mistranslated as magic. But Heka wasn't sorcery. It was engineering the precise science of how vibration instructs matter. They taught that sound, color, and emotion were programmable wavelengths. When combined correctly, they opened portals not in space, but in perception. The initiate didn't travel anywhere. Reality bent around their awareness, reorganizing itself to mirror their command. If that sounds impossible, consider what modern physics tells us: that the observer influences the experiment, that particles behave differently when watched. Thoth's adepts knew this thousands of years ago. They learned to watch reality with such coherent intention that probability collapsed in their favor. This was the origin of miracle the moment mind and matter spoke the same language. Thoth's blueprint for human awakening was hidden in the very architecture of the body. The spinal column mirrored the jade pillar, symbol of stability and divine current. The 7 energy nodes along the spine corresponded to the 7 chambers of his temple complexes. Each center was tuned to a specific vowel sound and color frequency. By vibrating those tones, intonations preserved later in Coptic and Hebrew chants, the initiate unlocked successive layers of perception. The process began with breath. The breath was sacred because it carried electrical charge. Inhaling through the left nostril drew lunar current, through the right, solar. Balancing both activated the central channel, the Sushumna, known to Egyptians as the path of the ibis, the bird of Thoth. When that channel ignited, awareness expanded beyond the body, linking directly with the geometric intelligence underlying all form. Ancient murals depict Thoth holding the Was scepter, symbol of dominion over energy. But that staff wasn't a metaphor. It represented the human spinal current when fully activated: electric, luminous, serpentine. Every myth of the caduceus, the staff with intertwining serpents, originates from this same energetic phenomenon. The rising of dual forces within the body that merge into one coherent field. Modern neuroscience provides a clue. When both hemispheres of the brain synchronize, the corpus callosum transmits data at higher frequencies, producing states of clarity, creativity, and intuitive knowing. Functional MRI scans show bursts of gamma-wave activity, the same signature found in advanced meditators and monks. The ancients called this the opening of the eye of Thoth, not a physical eye, but the pineal gland, the crystalline antenna in the center of the brain that converts electrical energy into photonic light. Over centuries, dogma and conquest buried this knowledge beneath myth. What survived in scattered fragments, alchemy, astrology, sacred geometry, were actually components of a single operating system. Thoth's disciples knew that the macrocosm and microcosm reflected each other perfectly. The spiral of galaxies echoed the spiral of DNA. The pulse of the sun mirrored the rhythm of the human heart. To alter one was to influence the other. Look closely at your own hands. The ratio between each phalange follows the golden proportion. Your heartbeats average 72 per minute, the harmonic of Earth's electromagnetic resonance. You are literally built from the mathematics of the cosmos. The forgotten blueprint isn't hidden in ancient papyri, it's written into your physiology. So how does activation actually occur? The first phase is awareness of energy. You begin to sense subtle vibrations within and around you, tingling in the palms, warmth in the spine, pulses of light behind closed eyes. These are not hallucinations. They are feedback from your bioelectric field, acknowledging your attention. Energy follows awareness. Where you place focus, current flows. The second phase is coherence. Thoth's initiates practiced rhythmic breathing until heart rate, brain waves, and emotional charge synchronized into a single steady rhythm. Modern heart coherence studies confirm that when this happens, the electromagnetic field of the heart expands exponentially, influencing matter and even the DNA of nearby organisms. The ancients achieved this with chant, movement, and visualization technologies of consciousness long before machines. The third phase is transmission. Once coherent, the human field can project intent into the quantum substrate of reality. Thought becomes instruction. Emotion becomes fuel, and vibration becomes the carrier wave. This is why prayers, spells, and affirmations work only when emotion and imagery align. The words alone are empty code. The energy behind them executes the command. When you grasp this, the phrase "made in the image of God" takes on new meaning. You are not a passive observer in a pre-written universe. You are an interface, a conscious node through which the universe updates itself. Every decision, every heartbeat is a line of code contributing to the grand program of reality. Thoth's forgotten blueprint wasn't lost. It was hidden in plain sight, waiting for a civilization advanced enough to rediscover it scientifically. That time is now. Biofield imaging, quantum coherence research, and neuroelectric mapping are revealing what the ancients already practiced. Consciousness is causal. The mind doesn't just perceive energy, it organizes it. And so, the first step in activating Thoth's most powerful secret is remembrance. Remembering that the architecture of creation and the architecture of your own body are one and the same. When you breathe consciously, feel intentionally, and think coherently, you begin to re-enter the original operating system. We'll go deeper into the actual mechanics of how thought becomes vibration, how vibration becomes form, and how you can harness this process deliberately to alter the fabric of reality itself. To understand how energy becomes reality, you must first see that the universe is not built from matter, but from rhythm. Every particle, every atom, every planet is a frozen vibration, a standing wave of consciousness slowed into visibility. When Thoth spoke of divine speech, he was describing the principle that sound is structure. The same mathematics that turns air into music turns intention into form. Modern physics calls it the quantum field, an invisible ocean of vibrating probability from which all particles emerge. To the ancients, it was the waters of none. The primordial sea where creation sleeps until stirred by thought. Thoth's hieroglyph, the stylus touching the tablet, is more than a symbol of writing. It represents consciousness, impressing its code upon the field. Every emotion you feel, every image you hold, sends a ripple into that ocean. When the ripples align coherently, they crystallize as experience. The first rule of activation is resonance. Resonance occurs when two frequencies match and begin to share energy. Strike one tuning fork, and another of the same pitch will sing in sympathy. The human nervous system works exactly the same way. Your thoughts and emotions generate frequencies measurable in Hertz electrical oscillations that radiate from the brain and heart. When these frequencies align with a pattern in the field, you pull that pattern into manifestation. This is why random wishing rarely works. Unfocused thoughts scatter energy like static. But coherent intention, emotion, image, and belief vibrating together creates a standing wave that the universe cannot ignore. Thoth's initiates trained for years to achieve this state. Their meditations were not passive. They were acts of engineering. Every gesture, breath, and tone fine-tuned the body into a resonant instrument capable of broadcasting on the frequency of creation itself. The second rule is entrainment. Once a coherent frequency is generated, it begins to organize surrounding chaos into its own rhythm. In neuroscience, this is seen when a dominant brainwave pattern synchronizes other neurons to fire in harmony. In cosmology, it appears when a forming star draws matter into orbit through gravitational resonance. Consciousness behaves no differently. When your internal field becomes steady and luminous, it entrains circumstances, people, and events into alignment. Life begins to echo your vibration. Imagine walking into a room after meditation. The air feels lighter. People smile without knowing why. Your coherence subtly pulls their scattered fields toward balance. This is not superstition. It is measurable biophysics. The electromagnetic field of the heart extends several feet beyond the body, and when two hearts are coherent, their rhythms synchronize. Thoth's disciples used group rituals to amplify this effect, forming a collective field strong enough to bend probability. What we call miracles were the natural byproducts of sustained coherence. The third rule is amplification. Energy follows attention, and attention is exponential. The more awareness you pour into a vibration, the stronger it becomes. Ancient chants often repeated a single phrase thousands of times, not to please deities but to build charge. Each repetition layered energy upon energy until the field around the initiate thickened like liquid light. At the critical threshold, reality recoded itself to match the vibration. Modern experiments with random event generators show similar results. Focused human intention can skew probability beyond chance when maintained with emotional consistency. To activate your own field, begin with the triad Thoth, encoded into every ritual breath, sound, and image. Breath sets rhythm, sound sets wavelength, image sets destination. Together, they form the circuit through which thought becomes tangible. Breath. Inhale through the nose for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and rest for 4. A pattern later called the Square of Thoth. This balances the solar and lunar currents within the body, equalizing charge. Sound. On the exhale, vibrate a tone that feels natural in your chest. Perhaps a deep AUM or RA. The exact syllable matters less than the resonance it generates. Feel it ripple through the spine, like the awakening of the Jed pillar. Image. As the sound flows, visualize a golden current rising from the base of the spine to the crown, expanding into a sphere of light. That image is the seed code. It tells the energy where to go. Performing this triad for even 3 minutes begins to stabilize your field. You may feel warmth, pressure, or gentle pulsing between your palms. These sensations are confirmation that consciousness is instructing energy, and energy is responding. Thoth warned his initiates that intention without purity distorts the field. Every thought carries ethical charge. Fear compresses energy into chaotic patterns. Love expands it into order. This is why the highest teachings were always veiled behind moral discipline. Power without harmony fractures reality's code. Power with compassion aligns it. The universe is not compelled by command, but invited by resonance. When your frequency mirrors the pattern of creation, which is love, it opens effortlessly. In the hidden chambers of Hermopolis, initiates were taught that the true name of every object was its frequency signature. To speak that name with precision was to command its behavior. The same law applies today. The clearer your internal frequency, the more precisely reality obeys. Language is secondary. Vibration is primary. Words are the carriers of tone, and tone is the carrier of intention. When heart and mind utter the same vibration, creation listens. As modern seekers, we are rediscovering these mechanics through technology. Biofeedback devices, brainwave entrainment audios, and quantum resonance imaging are crude reflections of what Thoth's priests accomplished with consciousness alone. Yet the principle is identical. Coherence creates power. The more unified your internal signals, the more efficiently you can direct the field. When you understand this, you realize that magic, prayer, and science are three faces of the same law. All are methods of shaping vibration through awareness. The ancient temples were laboratories of frequency. The hymns were algorithms. The priesthood were engineers of the soul. And in their hidden scrolls was written a promise that when humanity once again remembered how to activate the blueprint, we would become the bridge between spirit and matter, heaven and earth, energy and form. In every myth of awakening, there comes a moment when the initiate must test their understanding inside ordinary life. Thoth students were never meant to stay in temples forever. The real classroom was the marketplace, the desert, the conversations where emotion rises and attention scatters. They believed that daily experience is the ultimate mirror. Whatever vibration you carry within will echo back as circumstance. This principle, call it reflective resonance, is the hinge between philosophy and reality. Modern psychology recognizes it in the placebo effect and in cognitive framing, the way expectation alters outcome. The priests of Hermopolis expressed the same law through symbol. They carved the ibis-headed god writing on a tablet of stars, showing that every thought inscribes itself upon the living cosmos. The art of activation is learning to write consciously. To practice this, initiates first observed their own emotional weather. They learned that frustration and fear scatter energy, while curiosity and gratitude organize it. Each emotion has its frequency. The heart is its instrument. When fear ruled, the heart's rhythm became jagged, radiating incoherence. When gratitude appeared, the rhythm turned smooth, a sine wave that harmonized with the field. In modern terms, we might say that attitude is waveform. In Thoth's language, it is tone. So, the training continued outside the temple walls. When an apprentice negotiated with merchants, spoke with family, or watched the Nile flood its banks, they practiced holding inner coherence amid chaos. The goal was not withdrawal from the world, but mastery within it. Reality became their feedback device. If events unfolded smoothly, their vibration was clear. If obstacles multiplied, they recalibrated their internal frequency. In this way, life itself became a sacred experiment. The next layer of teaching dealt with attention. Attention, they said, is the most valuable substance in the universe because wherever it flows, creation follows. Thoth called it the ray of Ra within human consciousness. To waste attention on fear was to dim that ray. To focus it through love was to ignite worlds. Modern neuroscience hints at this truth through neuroplasticity. The brain rewires itself according to what we repeatedly notice. Attention sculpts reality from both ends, neurological and energetic. In their nightly rituals, initiates visualized attention as a beam of light emanating from the forehead, touching an object and awakening its pattern. When the beam was steady, the object shimmered in their mind's eye, sometimes shifting hue or vibration. The exercise trained precision of focus. Today, we might see the same practice in concentration meditation or visualization therapy. The difference is language, not essence. Thoth's records speak of a deeper phenomenon that occurred when attention became absolutely still. The field around the body began to hum. Temperature dropped. Colors brightened. The initiate entered the silence between breaths, a state where thoughts stopped, but awareness expanded infinitely. In that silence, the blueprint of reality appeared, as geometry interlocking spirals of light, responding to the pulse of the heart. Stories tell that some adepts could nudge these patterns, altering small details in the physical world, healing a wound, calming a storm, influencing chance. Whether literal or symbolic, the message was clear. When consciousness and energy synchronize, probability flexes. In modern language, this mirrors the observer effect in quantum experiments. In poetic language, It is the whisper of creation listening back. Yet Thoth's teachings always warned against using the secret for vanity. The universe, they said, amplifies intention by resonance. A selfish motive creates turbulence that eventually collapses its own structure. Compassion, on the other hand, aligns with the universe's inherent symmetry, allowing energy to flow without resistance. To act with love was not moral decoration. It was functional physics of the soul. The temple texts describe an experiment of compassion. 2 initiates were instructed to send identical visualizations of healing light toward a sick animal, one from obligation, one from genuine empathy. The first produced no change. The second coincided with recovery. The difference was emotional wavelength. Modern research on psychosomatic response in mirror neurons hints at the same principle. Empathy changes biology, both givers and receivers. As training advanced, initiates began to combine individual coherence into collective resonance. They gathered in circles, each holding a tone, forming literal chords of vibration. The sound filled the chamber until overtones shimmered in the air like silver mist. Observers described a sensation of weightlessness, as if gravity itself softened. Whether this occurred in physical space or within consciousness, no one could say. But those who experienced it emerged, transformed, more lucid, less fearful, radiantly calm. The process, though ancient, resembles modern findings in group meditation studies, where synchronized heart rhythms reduce local crime or raise collective mood. What Thoth's disciples intuited through ritual, science now measures through data. Coherent minds alter fields of possibility. Activation, then, is not the acquisition of new power, but the remembrance of participation. You are not separate from the world you observe. Every choice, every breath, contributes to the grand equation of creation. The mechanics may appear mystical, yet they are as ordinary as magnetism. When you align inner polarity thought, emotion, and body, the external field reorganizes to maintain balance. The universe seeks coherence as naturally as water seeks level. Thoth's final counsel to his students was simple: guard the purity of your sound. In practice, this meant speaking truthfully, acting kindly, and thinking clearly. For every word was a frequency, and every deed a vibration. To lie was to introduce dissonance into the field. To act with integrity was to harmonize it. Over time, this ethical resonance became self-reinforcing. Goodness was not enforced by law, but compelled by physics of consciousness. In our age, we translate these teachings through mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and positive psychology. Yet beneath the terminology lies the same secret. Coherence is creation. When your inner field vibrates with integrity, outer life arranges itself accordingly. As we move toward the next section, imagine that each breath you take carries information from every star that ever existed. Imagine your thoughts as ripples moving through that stellar sea. Activation is not a miracle bestowed from above. It is the natural function of an awakened participant in the cosmic orchestra. The elders of Hermopolis used to say, "A single heart in harmony outweighs 1,000 minds in conflict." They meant that the mathematics of resonance expand geometrically. When one person stabilizes their inner frequency, the field around them influences others in subtle but measurable ways. Multiply that by a community, and you have the makings of cultural transformation. Archaeologists still puzzle over why certain ancient cities seem to have been designed as vast harmonic instruments, streets aligned to solstices, pillars tuned to specific acoustic tones. The mystery deepens when you consider that such architecture functions as an amplifier of collective energy. Every ceremony, every song, every shared heartbeat sent a pulse into the planet's magnetic field. The people were literally writing emotion into Earth's resonance. In poetic terms, civilization itself was a symphony in stone. Thoth's scrolls describe 7 cycles of humanity, each rising and falling with the coherence of its collective vibration. When harmony prevailed, when art, science, and spirit moved together, knowledge flourished and time felt abundant. When greed or fear dominated, the collective waveform fractured, and history called the result collapse. The pattern is recognizable even now. Nations rise not only on economics, but on shared attention. Where focus scatters, systems decay. Modern research echoes the myth. Global studies of geomagnetic fluctuations show subtle correlations between world events and variations in the planet's field. When mass emotion spikes joy during celebrations or grief after disasters, the data wavers. We do not yet know causation, but the rhythm is unmistakable. Consciousness and environment are entangled. Thoth would simply nod. As above, so below. As within, so without. In practice, collective activation begins with small groups aligning intention. Picture a circle of people breathing in unison, visualizing peace. The scene could take place in a temple, a park, a virtual meeting. The geometry is identical. Hearts synchronizing, waves overlapping, amplitudes multiplying. The result is not magic, but mathematics. Energy coheres. Probability bends toward harmony. Each participant leaves calmer, more focused, more likely to act compassionately, and those actions propagate outward like resonant echoes. This principle scales further. The same coherence that stabilizes an individual nervous system can stabilize societies. When leaders make decisions from clarity rather than fear, policy itself carries a cleaner frequency. When art uplifts rather than agitates, culture realigns toward creativity. The ancients would call this raising the vibration of the realm. We might call it collective emotional intelligence. Different words, same current. Still, Thoth's initiates warned that every amplification must pass through a moment of distortion. When higher frequency meets lower, interference patterns appear static, chaos, resistance. On the personal level, this feels like doubt or fatigue just before a breakthrough. On the societal level, it manifests as turmoil preceding renewal. The teaching was not to fear the turbulence, but to hold coherence through it. The storm, Thoth said, is only the orchestra tuning. To illustrate, the priests told the story of the mirror lake. A novice stands before calm water and sees perfect reflection. But when wind rises, the image shatters. The lake has not lost its power to reflect. It has gained motion. The initiate's task is to remember the still image beneath the waves. Likewise, when outer reality trembles, the adept anchors awareness in the unbroken pattern underneath. That remembrance reestablishes harmony. Applied to modern life, this becomes a simple but radical discipline. Maintain inner coherence when headlines, algorithms, and emotions pull you apart. Each moment you succeed, you transmit steadiness into the collective field. You may never see the full ripple, yet the field records it. A calm choice here, an act of kindness there, becomes quantum data in humanity's evolving blueprint. Thoth's myth ends not with apocalypse, but with continuity. He promises that when enough individuals remember their creative capacity, a threshold will be crossed. The veil between thought and manifestation will thin. Reality will respond faster, reflecting consciousness almost instantly. In narrative terms, that is the age of light. In psychological terms, it is a species learning responsibility for its imagination. We can glimpse the beginning of that shift already in technologies that mirror consciousness, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, instant communication. Each external invention corresponds to an internal awakening. The network of minds online is a crude echo of the original telepathic grid the ancients described. We are rebuilding Thoth's net, but with wires instead of awareness. The next evolution, perhaps, is to combine both, technology guided by coherence rather than noise. Remember, though, that activation is never compulsory. The universe invites, but never coerces. Every individual chooses the frequency they broadcast through thought, emotion, and deed. The path of Thoth is voluntary participation in creation. You do not have to believe in mystical energy to practice it. You need only notice how attention shapes experience, how emotion colors perception, how coherence produces clarity. These are empirical truths disguised as mythic metaphors. So when you breathe tonight, imagine that your lungs are the wings of the ibis, drawing cosmic rhythm into human form. Imagine that your heartbeat drums the tempo of galaxies. Not because such images are literally true, but because they remind you that you belong to a greater pattern. That sense of belonging restores coherence faster than any chant or ritual. It is the feeling of home within the universe, the ultimate activation. The priests would end each teaching with a pause, allowing silence to absorb the lesson. Silence, they said, is the background frequency of creation, the note before sound. In that stillness, everything awaits instruction. The next instruction is yours. Reality doesn't shift in flashes of lightning. It tilts quietly, like light changing angle through glass. Those who've trained their attention can feel that tilt the instant it happens. The air seems to hum. Colors sharpen. The boundary between idea and event softens. What you once called coincidence begins responding to emotion instead of probability. Thoth's adepts called this the crossing, when inner geometry impresses itself upon matter. It's the moment when you realize the world is listening, and that it has always been listening, waiting for you to speak in its native language. Pattern. The process begins where observation meets belief. Thought alone is not enough. Emotion alone is not enough. But when focused thought merges with coherent feeling, the wave collapses. The quantum field, or the divine mind if you prefer older words, arranges particles according to that pattern. This is not mysticism, it's resonance mechanics. The field reflects the frequency of the signal it receives. Every object, every circumstance, every encounter is an echo of your broadcast. Imagine waking in the morning and remembering, truly remembering, that the first word you speak programs the next 12 hours of your experience. The moment the word leaves your lips, the code writes itself into the matrix. That is why Thoth taught the discipline of sacred speech, not chanting in candlelit chambers, but choosing words that align with the reality you wish to inhabit. Each syllable is a frequency container. Speak in fear and you conjure mirrors of fear. Speak in gratitude, and the same energy multiplies until it fills your timeline. The ancients practiced this through what they called living incantations. Every task, grinding grain, writing symbols, even walking, was accompanied by intentional rhythm and phrase. To an outside observer, it looked like devotion. In truth, it was programming. They understood that repetition plus emotion equals creation. Modern psychology calls it neuroplasticity. Hermeticists called it magic. Two names, one law. Energy follows attention, but attention follows fascination. That's why your devices compete for it. The architectures of distraction are simply hijacked versions of Thoth's principles. Every scroll, every notification ping, is a ritual to capture creative energy and redirect it toward external agendas. When you reclaim fascination and direct it toward your own chosen symbols, reality bends back in your favor. The key isn't force. It's coherence. Force pushes. Coherence attracts. There's a story hidden in the walls of Dendera, almost erased by time. It tells of an initiate who doubted his power. He tried to summon light with sacred words, yet nothing happened. In frustration, he whispered, "I am empty." The room brightened, not because of the phrase itself, but because in that instant, he stopped striving. His mind and heart synchronized in humility, a perfect alignment between will and surrender. The priests recorded that the chamber glowed for 3 days. Perhaps myth, perhaps metaphor, but the lesson remains. Creation requires balance between directed focus and open receptivity. Masculine intention meets feminine allowance. Only together do they generate form. When you practice altering reality, begin small. Observe how minor internal shifts produce external ripples. Change the way you speak to yourself for 7 days. No criticism, only clear observation and affirmation. And notice the conversations that suddenly change tone around you. Replace one habitual worry with curiosity and watch how new possibilities emerge in spaces that once felt closed. This is not coincidence. It's calibration. The field responds to precision the way water shapes itself around a sculpted bowl. Thoth described the field as living plasma, intelligent light that organizes itself according to vibrational instruction. Modern physics glimpses this in the behavior of photons that change state when observed. Observation is not passive, it's participation. Every time you notice something, you reinforce its existence. Every time you withdraw attention, you allow it to dissolve. The adepts called this the art of disappearance, unmanifesting old realities by starving them of awareness. Complaining, analyzing, and retelling painful stories are rituals of reinforcement. Silence, forgiveness, and redirection are rituals of release. If you want to know what you've been unconsciously creating, look around you. Your home, your relationships, your body, they are feedback loops, not punishments. They show you your broadcast. When you adjust your inner signal, outer structures realign, sometimes gently, sometimes dramatically. Entire friend groups shift. Opportunities arrive unannounced. Old versions of you fade, like dream fragments at dawn. The change can feel disorienting, but it is evidence that the universe is re-indexing your coordinates. The deeper secret is that you are never creating from scratch. You are selecting from infinite possibilities that already exist as vibrational templates. Every potential life, every version of tomorrow, waits in the field like unplayed music. Emotion and imagination are the tuning knobs that determine which song you hear. Thoth called this riding the serpent of time, moving laterally through probable futures. Science calls it quantum superposition. The mechanics differ in language, not in essence. There is a phase between thought and manifestation called liminal density. It's the invisible condensation where patterns gather mass before materializing. Many people sabotage themselves here. They plant an intention, nurture it for a while, then dig it up to check if it's growing. Impatience scatters the waveform. The remedy is trust born of observation. Notice how breath follows intention without effort. Inhale, exhale, automatic cooperation between will and nature. Creation functions the same way. You initiate, the field completes. Interfere too soon, and the circuit breaks. When initiates learned this rhythm, they practiced not desire, but precision. They didn't say, I want. They said, I am aligning with the pattern of completion. Desire implies absence. Alignment implies readiness. The difference seems subtle, but in the energetic realm, it's the line between chasing and receiving. The mind that chases affirms lack. The mind that aligns confirms possession. The universe, impartial and literal, responds accordingly. To alter reality on larger scales, collective alignment is required. Imagine thousands focusing on harmony for a few minutes. Not forced positivity, but genuine coherence, the quiet conviction that improvement is possible. Data from meditation experiments show small but consistent drops in violence, hospital admissions, even traffic accidents during synchronized sessions. Critics debate causality, yet the pattern repeats. Thoth's principle of correspondence explains it simply. When enough nodes of consciousness share frequency, the grid reorganizes to maintain balance. The outer world mirrors the inner waveform. What would happen if this principle were applied intentionally to education, governance, technology? Imagine classrooms where students begin by centering breath, governments that make decisions after coherence meditation, algorithms optimized for empathy instead of engagement metrics. Such ideas sound idealistic until you realize that systems already respond to the frequencies of those who design them. Every structure holds the consciousness of its creators. Raise the consciousness, and the structure inevitably evolves. At personal scale, the transformation unfolds as subtle miracles. You think of someone, and they call. You envision a solution, and it appears through unrelated channels. You feel gratitude for an event that hasn't occurred, and circumstances rearrange to fulfill it. These are not anomalies. They are confirmations that your broadcast is clear. The universe loves clarity. It rushes to fill ordered space. Chaos, by contrast, delays manifestation because the signal keeps changing. The discipline of sustained focus. 30 seconds of pure visualization without doubt builds the muscle that moves worlds. The final teaching of Thoth was paradoxical. To alter reality, you must first release the need to alter it, because need implies separation, and separation distorts frequency. When you act from the awareness that reality is already responding, your energy stabilizes into what mystics call grace. Grace is the frictionless state where thought, emotion, and outcome merge. The magician disappears because creation becomes effortless. Action and manifestation are the same motion seen from two sides. Many who reach this threshold experience what they describe as crystalline perception. Time slows. Synchronicities increase exponentially. Choices feel guided, yet free. It's the natural state of coherence, the human nervous system functioning as a clear channel of the universal field. From this state, compassion arises spontaneously, not as moral duty, but as resonance recognizing oneself in all forms. That recognition ends the illusion of conflict, and with it, the need for control. Creation becomes collaboration with existence itself. If you wish to test this, choose one situation in your life that feels stuck. Write down the current narrative, how you describe it, how it makes you feel. Then rewrite it as if it has already transformed for the highest good of all involved. Read the second version daily, not as fantasy, but as calibration. Feel the relief, the gratitude, the ease of its completion. Act in small ways that align with that new timeline. Within weeks, reality begins to echo the new script. The change may appear mundane, a phone call, a meeting, an unexpected idea, but it marks the translation of pattern into event. That is the essence of Thoth's most powerful secret. Energy follows awareness, and awareness is the lever of worlds. You do not need temples, amulets, or secret societies. You need presence, coherence, and the courage to imagine responsibly. Every breath, every word, every choice is a command to the field. You are speaking creation into being, continuously. The question is not whether you are creating, but whether you are doing it consciously. As this understanding deepens, gratitude becomes your default state. Gratitude signals completion. Completion attracts expansion. It is the infinite loop of creation, appreciating itself. Even challenges reveal purpose contrast, designed to refine clarity. The adept learns to bless each experience. For every frequency, even discomfort, contains data for evolution. When you can thank the storm as easily as the sunlight, you have mastered polarity, rhythm, and cause in a single gesture. You have become the living tablet. So pause now. Breathe once. Feel your heartbeat echoing through the electromagnetic web that binds every being on this planet. Each pulse is a message. With each beat, you are rewriting the code of your own existence. You are no longer the seeker, but the scribe. The stylus is your intention. The page is reality itself. What will you write next? If these words resonate, don't let them remain concepts. Test them, observe them, share them. When you see patterns aligning, when synchronicities multiply, when fear dissolves into calm certainty, recognize it as the activation beginning. Continue the practice. Continue the remembering. You are the continuation of Thoth's experiment, the human mind awakening to its own creative mathematics. The emerald tablet was never stone. It was consciousness. And it was waiting for you to read it from within. Reality will respond the moment you do. And if you're ready to explore these principles more deeply, to learn how to apply energy activation, coherence, and sacred language in everyday life, join our private circle through the link below. Inside, you'll receive guided practices and advanced insights drawn from the original Hermetic framework adapted for the modern mind. Because awakening isn't meant to stay theoretical. It's meant to be lived, shared, embodied. The window is open. The field is listening. The pen is in your hand. Write wisely. If these words stirred something inside you, if part of you remembers what it feels like to command your own energy, then don't let the feeling fade when the screen goes dark. This isn't entertainment. It's an invitation. You've just been handed the same key. Thoth gave his initiates awareness that shapes reality. Now it's your turn to use it. Take a breath, center your focus, and choose the reality you want to experience next. Then act as if it's already begun. If you're ready to keep exploring the hidden mechanics of energy, consciousness, and creation, join our circle of seekers. Subscribe, share this message, and step into the work with us. Every voice, every intention strengthens the field. The temples have fallen silent, but the current still flows. You are the continuation, Remember the words, as within, so without. Now, activate.